Hey friends, Shayla here, and I wanted to get on here and talk about a couple of YA fantasy books that I've read recently and give you guys my in-depth thoughts on what's going on with them. So these are all 2019 fantasy releases. Two of the three are very popular and the other one was flying under the radar, and I wanted to talk to you guys about why I think that is. So it is these three. So we've got the Sword and the Dagger, Crown of Feathers, and the Wicked King. I will save the Wicked King for last, and I will talk about the other two first. So the first one I wanted to mention was The Sword and the Dagger by Robert Cochran. Now, this is one that was kind of flying under the radar there for a while, and I wanted to talk about why I think that is. So ultimately, I've decided to DNF this book. And I think I can... I know why no one's really talking about it, so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it in this video. So I read the first 100 pages, I made annotations and tabs, and I've got some trigger warnings at the top. But essentially in this story, we're following a princess and a prince who are supposed to be getting married for a political marriage, and an assassin sent to murder the princess. In this story, some of the trigger warnings are violence, harm to animals, and mistreatment of women. So I'm sure those three are the main reasons why people aren't gravitating towards this book. Now, this isn't a forever DNF for me, and that may surprise some of you. So I've decided to put this down for now because there's some tough stuff to deal with in this story. But when you look at the time frame in which it is based historically, some of the behavior was very prominent in that time. Now, one thing to be said for those things that are triggers, they are handling them very well. They are very much calling them out on the fact that these things are not okay, which I do appreciate in this novel. And I think Cochran is doing a really good job. This is his debut, so I really want to give the rest of the book a chance. I just need to step away from it for now so that I can get in the right mindset. Because this is like Genghis Khan time, I think it's the 1200s, we're talking, 800 to 900 years ago, when the world was very different than the one that we're in now. And one thing I've noticed a lot in reviewers especially is we try to put our modern ideals on these historical fantasy settings. Now, our princess in this story, she's fantastic. She is typically the one calling everybody on their behavior and pointing out that it's not okay. And she's very strong. She's much more of a modern woman than the men in this story. So I do want to put that out there as a good pro for this book. And I do think I will revisit this in time. I just want to step away from it for now, wrap my head around a few other things, take a break, read some manga, read some contemporary, because I think I was in the middle of fantasy-a-thon, so I was reading a lot of fantasy manga as well as fantasy books, and so I think I was just getting a little burnt out. So I don't want to blame this book for the burnout. I want to step away from it, and I want to try coming back to it. I've been taking thorough notes throughout as I've been annotating, so I can easily revisit my notes, get reacquainted with the story, and jump back in. I don't know that I'll get back to this in the month of March. It might be a couple of months. And even down the line, I might decide that I never want to get back to it. So I'm just putting that out there that right now I've chosen to not finish this. I'm not saying it's a bad book. There are some things that are problematic in it. And I do think people will want to know that those things are in this book, which is why I'm talking about it anyway. So for now, I do not have a star rating because it's currently a soft DNF. Soft DNF meaning I will most likely come back to it and try again. And at that point, if I can't handle it, then it will be a hard DNF where I will unhaul it from my shelf. Now we're going to talk about Crown of Feathers by Nikki Pau Preto. Now, this is a really enjoyable story about Phoenix writers and people who are animages. They don't have a better term for it. A person who does a fantastic review of this is Connor from Connor O'Brien. He's one of my favorite reviewers on BookTube, so I will leave his review linked down below for in-depth thoughts. But essentially, in this story, it's kind of a coming-of-age kind of your typical fantasy YA with some really cool elements to it. Now, again, this is Nikki Palpretto's debut, and I think for a debut, it's very promising. I ended up at 4 stars with this book. There's some pacing issues and some other things going on within the book that I think will kind of remedy themselves in the next novel. So I'm really excited to continue on in this series, and I do think Palpretto's doing a great job of the representation that she's putting out there. And, you know, we're dealing with time skips and sisters, and there's a lot going on in this novel, and I really like the characters. They do get some decent growth through this first novel, which I definitely appreciate. Veronica was definitely my favorite character within this novel, and I do think this book is worth a read. I ended up really enjoying it a lot more than I expected to, and it was compulsorily readable. I read this in a day. I had a day at work where it was my office day, but I only had a couple things to take care of in the morning, and then I just had to sit and run the store. So I sat there with my book and I read, and I basically read the entire thing in about 5.5 hours, and it is an almost 500-page book. Like, I read this, but I enjoyed it. It was hard for me to want to put it down. So do take that into consideration as you read this, is that you might be one of those people that it'll be hard to put down, so make sure you've got plenty of time. But if you're okay and you need time to digest your fantasies, this is actually really good for that, because I feel like the pacing lends well to that. The biggest thing I'm going to warn you about is throughout the first 150 pages or so, there is a huge, huge info dump with this story where you're just being force-fed everything going on in the world, in this fantastical world, which they have to do to an extent, but it's a little heavy-handed. It could have been sprinkled throughout the novel a little better, and that's part of where the pacing stuff kind of comes in. So know that going into this novel, but I do think it's worth a read, so definitely check it out. Now we are going to talk about The Wicked King by Holly Black, one of the biggest books on BookTube this year. This is the Barnes & Noble edition, if it doesn't look familiar to you, but I have to tell you before I start this, I was not team 5-star of The Cruel Prince. I ended up giving The Cruel Prince about 3.5 stars on my initial first read and review of it. The Wicked King I gave 5 stars. This book is a masterfully written story. So if you were kind of middling about The Cruel Prince, like you didn't hate it but you didn't love it, try The Wicked King. I felt like the politics got much deeper on this one. There's lots of scheming. There's so much going on in this story that I really loved it. Again, I can't say too much specifically about what's going on in this book because it is the second book in a series. I know it's all over BookTube, and most people have talked about it in depth, but I do think that this series is going to be worth it. I know there's at least one other book in the series. I'm not sure if there's going to be more, but The Queen of Nothing is the next book. And by the time I got to the end of this book, I really wanted The Queen of Nothing in my hands. The way this book ended devastated me in a way I didn't expect it to. I was so thrown by what was going on. Like, I really just legitimately didn't know what to do with myself when I was reading this. So the Fae continue to be tricksters and to only be looking out for themselves. There is so much that's going on. It did not take me long to get re-immersed in this, and it had been about a year since I'd read The Cruel Prince. But yeah, it did not take me long to get re-immersed in this story. So I do recommend jumping back in. It's pretty easy to figure out where you're at within the first chapter or two. So they're pretty good to kind of recap. They don't obviously go into huge, long depths of recap because it's only like a 300-ish, 350-page book, something like that. But anyhow, so yes, I am team 5-star for The Wicked King, even though I felt in the middle about The Cruel Prince, which is another reason why I wanted to talk about this one, because I didn't love The Cruel Prince like everybody else. So I was worried that it was just my taste and that I wasn't going to like the series as a whole. So after reading The Wicked King, I do think I want to revisit The Cruel Prince and see if I feel differently now that I know a little bit more about what's going to continue to happen within the story. But yes, this is a very politically charged, Jude-centered story, and I think it's really well done for that reason. And as I said, by the end I was devastated, and I was just so upset. Anyhow, so to briefly recap, The Wicked King got 5 stars. Crown of Feathers got 4 stars. And The Sword and the Dagger is currently being put aside at a soft DNF. So friends, thank you so much for checking out this video. I really wanted to get on here and talk about some books. It's been a while. I've been talking a lot more about manga recently, but I wanted to let you know that I am still reading books and still loving reading my prose. So here is a fun little 3 review recap, talk about them kind of situation, so that you have all the information that you can have about these particular YA fantasies. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're new around here, please subscribe. I would love to see you around. And thanks again for checking out this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.